Hey, I thought I'd do a another video about what's going on in the media, mainly because I don't I didn't watch any. I mean, I watched a tiny bit more Hannibal, and I just thought, fuck this shit, man. It's so cringy. Like for me, it's one of them where I think, well, I read all the books and I read all the books and I saw all the other films. So now I need to finish the series because and they might do a series four, but like actually so bad. Can't take it. It's so like it's not even at the point of laughable. It's not laughable bad. It's it's crazy. Like you know what I'm seeing, right? Imagine if like back in the day, like maybe 10, 20 years ago, you'd have, I think it got to be quite a big thing where people, is it called like LARPing or some shit? Like what's it called when people go and they act out like Magic the Gathering or Harry Potter and stuff? Like shit that we used to do when we were like seven, eight. Like this is worse than seeing a bunch of 40-year-old men doing that. That's what Hannibal is doing to me. It's the equivalent of me watching a bunch of like 40-year-old men, 40 to 60-year-old men, uh, running around going, "I cast this spell on you," and then like fully uh, acting like they're acting, um, and it's so bad. One thing I didn't mention in it was how crazy it is that all the female characters are put into roles where they're uh, intellectual, but they're always just murdered or fucked. I just thought, like, I was watching it and I thought, for a for a uh, for an incredibly camp show, it sure does depict the women as sex objects or people to eat and murder. I thought, hmm. I mean, I guess a lot of a lot of gay men do just hate women, don't they? I mean, I don't know. You know what it seems like to me? It seems like the sort of show that if you watched Californication, you would like Hannibal. That's the sort of vibe I'm getting from it. I knew this girl that used to love the show Californication, and she is one of the cringiest people to be around. To listen to her talk is like it's like somebody managed to actually get their asshole into their mouth and just breathe out and then breathe in and then breathe out and then breathe in. If everybody that I know that's ever liked that show, I've just thought I can't listen to you talk. I can't put myself through it. Um, but yeah, that was my opinion on that. That was something that after I finished that video, I thought, oh, one thing that I did leave out is it's incredibly like I just don't understand that. I don't. I understand it from if the perspective of a writer can't put him like if you're not a woman, maybe it's difficult to write female characters. If you've only ever slept with or hated women, maybe that's also. Um, I just guess that this is what I'm thinking. If it was a weapon, it was an incredibly bad weapon. Do you know what I mean? But like the first time around when I watched it, I did just think series one was crap and series two was decent. So maybe this is something that, it could appeal to under 27-year-olds, like 8 years after the fact or something. Anyway, news. What's going on today? French rail network hit by arson attacks. So I would say that that is something somebody has a problem with the French government or its Parisians, or both. That I mean, French people en masse don't like the French government, do they? So um, seems like a extremely. It seems like something that people would do who think that they're not going to get caught. I would say that that is more than likely to be people manipulated to do something with somebody stood behind them that's not going to get caught through for the manipulation. That's what I'd say that that is. It also seems like they're making a much bigger deal out of that than this seems like when you have a drug dealer in a newspaper article and it's like I've seen drug dealers that I've known and they've said they had £1 million worth of drugs and you're like what? That guy sold eight max. You know what I mean? Like a few times I got him to do a queue like that's utter bull. It's a bullshit. Like at most, like do you know what I mean? That £1 million, you're breaking it down into the smallest amounts possible at the highest possible street value of the country. Do you know? Possibly the world. Do you know what I mean? It's like I feel like this is the same here, where they're saying this is going to disrupt 800,000 travel plans, and I think, is it really? Is it really? Uh, I think that this is somebody trying to big up some minor thing that they've done. If I'm honest with you, that's what that seems like. I like. I don't think it's that. What you would say is that okay, this is saying Eurostar trains, high speed rail network. Is that going to be affecting tubes and shit? I don't know if that's going to be affecting because they do have some form of like tram or tube, don't they, in Paris? So you would think that maybe if it's just affecting high speed rails, like if in terms of like what that does in London, if you were just fucking with if you just fucked up a few trains, that's just going to affect a tiny bit of South London. Do you know what I mean? Everyone else is using tubes and buses, and even for South London, you can just use buses. Like you can just use buses, bikes, and walk. It's really not that much of a huge deal. So this seems like something that is a lot more. I would say probably the British government like that this has happened, so they want to make it to sound much worse than it is. Chinese swimmer says doping test as a part of European and American plot. I think it's so weird that some drugs are okay and some drugs aren't. It seems like such a weird thing to say. This enhances your performance a bit. This enhances your performance a lot. So we're going to allow this and not allow that. I understand it if it's coming from a health perspective. Do you know what I mean? If you allow caffeine because people live to their 100 without dementia and all this shit that people are saying that you get from caffeine. If people are if the reason that drugs are allowed is because they don't fuck up your body, then I would say that makes sense. But if it's due to like what sort of performance enhancement they cause, also on top of that, you talk to people in like MMA gyms or you talk to swimmers, like they use performance enhancing drugs when they're not going to get tested. Do you know what I mean? Any sort of off season that they get, they're going to ramp the fuck up. Like how football players drink in the off drinking party in the off season and shit. Do you know what I mean? Like they are going to use every performance enhancing drug when they're not going to get drugs tested. And more often than not, like in anything, you know the amount of kitchens I worked in where the head chef will go, "We're going to get an inspection tomorrow," and then we get an inspection the next day. It's all corrupt as fuck. Do you know what I mean? People operating a wash quite clearly have the corrupt officers that are carrying out the health checks in their back pocket because they make money off the corruption as well. Do you know what I mean? You think that people want basically basically this is high-end sports. They get everybody to take PEDs, and then when they don't like somebody, they get them tested when they know that they've just taken something. That's how it works. They get you all trapped up on something illegal so that then whenever they want, they can get you taken out. That's how that works. So yeah, the Chinese swimmer is right. Doping testers are part of a European and American plot, but they do it to Europeans and Americans too, Mr. Chinese swimmer. So don't think that they're just doing it to you. Uh, Canada football coach removed amid claims of previous drone use. Yeah, that shit's sort of weird. I mean, that's just more like cheating. They've been doing it for time. They send people disguised as fans, don't they, to watch training ground matches so that they can see what tactics somebody's using. They're not going to use actual people. They're going to use drones. They're probably going to use both. I don't know if like I'm not sure. Obviously, that sort of should be illegal, but I guess top coaches will. I guess like a lot of teams don't have the money to make sure the security is that tight, that nobody could get in, and then if the security is if you can't afford the security, then you would have to be training tactics you're not going to use, and people wouldn't be used to them. Fuck knows, I don't really give a shit. Obama endorses Kamala Harris, obviously. Yeah, it's so weird, isn't it? Like I don't want to pay attention to any of it anymore. I don't. It's so bad. It's just so obviously fake, and like getting your emotions manipulated by it is worse. It's one thing to like enjoy sports because you used to play sports, right? And you grew up like cheering on sports teams or whatever, right? But then it's difficult to get out of that trap. It is, but like politics, I think to be honest, for me, it needs to all be so dead in the water. And it seems like as ridiculous as they make it, it seems like now people just go, well, I can't avoid it, so I'm just going to lean into how ridiculous it all is. You just don't know how deeply these people that are the politicians run, and you don't know if it destroys their life. Looking at the difference between Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, I would say that like being a president ruined your life more so than not being president. Um, Obama seems all right-ish. He also seems like he's pretty good at masking stuff. He also seems like, I think because he was the first black president, I think he's going to have so much support forever for that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like all the old white guy presidents, I mean, like who the fuck? I don't imagine George Bush he probably has a good life because he's got money, but I don't think he'll have a good life in terms of everywhere that he goes, he probably gets ragged on, especially when you have stories that people near enough know, like you have journalists reporting on those, like what were those fucking owl parties and shit, where you have like an old president like raping a new president, like bombing a new president to indict them into like Nixon said it was some faggy shit, right? But like seem to be going there every year. Which is I'm pretty sure he's listed as a member, which is pretty fun. Um, but yeah, the stories about that shit are literally just like it's all guys. No, they don't allow women there, right? And then they all get steaming, and like ceremonially, an old president will figure out who they want the next president to be, and will bomb them in front of everybody. Um, Manchester Airport. Family call for calm. That's good. That's what should happen. People get angry, they deal with their emotions, then they call for calm so that the correct action should be taken, whatever that is. Do you know what I mean? Isn't that what that's what people should do, right? Like that's I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be said there. Like that's exactly what needs to happen. People are angry initially for a few days, and then they go, everybody needs to be calm so that we can get the correct action here. The only problem is like this has to be a setup because of how the police treat me. Do you know what I mean? Because of how the police are treating my complaints, that whole situation has to be a setup. So if it's real, I would say that's great that they're calling for calm. It's not though. So that makes it quite frustrating. Patients cannot trust CQC. Hospital safety ratings. Yeah, I don't know. I've never had to go in for any sort of major surgery anywhere, so I don't really like know how safe or unsafe I felt. Ibn drop challenge over Netanyahu arrest warrant. Yeah, reading that, like, listen, like, I guess this is what happens when you live in a multicultural world, right? When you live in a multicultural world and you live in a multicultural society, and I don't know if Israel and Gaza. I don't know if they have England or the US's best interests at heart. However, like England are in league with Israel. England and the US are in league with Israel, right? But I would say that region, I don't know if they have the UK and the US's government at heart, at best interest at heart. So you look at like I was talking to a girl a couple of days ago who was saying stuff to me like, oh, I was talking about something and she went, oh, I used to get bullied when I was a kid, and I went, yeah, that's like cat tactics. Why are you trying to make me feel sorry for you in the middle of me speaking like this? Do you know what I mean? And then she did it again about 15 minutes later, and I thought, why have you done that? Like, I know why you're doing that, but why are you making me not respect you conversationally? Do you know what I mean? There's a difference between saying, um, I'm getting abused and harassed, and this is how it started, to us having a discussion and you saying something completely off, something that is completely unrelated. Here, get me some sympathy. This is the equivalent of what your sort of like Katie, Ellie officers, like Jeremy, Francis, fucking Mins, whatever the guy's real name is. Like, that is a cool game that you just played. How did you do that? Anyway, so this is the sort of games that they play. Some ridiculous over the top thing that has nothing to do with the actual narrative, the actual storyline. Do you know what I mean? Why do you think police are harassing you? Well, because they physically assaulted me heavily this time. They physically assaulted me this time. They physically assaulted me heavily this time. They seemed to orchestrate a physical attack this time and then threw me out of the police station when my friends took me there just because it was round the corner. Them going, Yeah, well, here's this girl, and one time she got bullied for being anorexic. I, I, like, what? What's that got to you? You're saying that the police and military intelligence are piling on top of me, and churches are stalking and harassing me at all times, following me around supermarkets, harassing me and attempting to bully me on newspaper sites, like banning me from posting shit on Twitter 2 days into having an account where I'm just posting drawings and my opinion on. I'm posting my opinion on violent shit, and they're saying uh, asking me to remove my comments and banning me from posting. Right. Um, and you're saying that that's the same situation. You know what that is? Is that's just the police and military intelligence manipulating stupid children. Which is bad. Which is so bad. Which is so bad for the future of our country. Which is so bad for the future of the world. Anyway, yeah, Labour must drop challenge. This seems to be something that was started by Rishi Sunak or something. Um, I don't know whether I think that that's something where sometimes with shit like this on foreign soil, so difficult, isn't it? So difficult, and like people would say, "Oh, it's so ironic," but it's not. But it's only ironic if you follow the narrative of the West. If you're following the narrative of what the West want you to believe, it's that we created a space next to Gaza and Palestine where we put a load of Jewish people there. If you actually go back like 2,500 years, you have like Jewish people talking about referring to themselves as the Israelites. Do you know what I mean? And talking about how that region is their holy land. So you think, well, no, it's got nothing to do with Americans going in and Americans and English people going in and saying, yeah, no, we're creating a space here. So, because I was talking to someone that was like, oh yeah, it's just some ironic way of like wanting to see if Jews would do the same thing that happened to them in the Holocaust, so that you could say that the Holocaust is not valid. It's like, yo, what the fuck? It has got nothing to do with that, man. Like just the same as like loads of shit that happens now is it's like the whole narrative of saying World War II sparked World War I sparked World War II. No, it didn't. Human history and all the different wars that we've had for time sparked World War. But like I don't even know why they called them World War I and World War II. It seems like we had tons of world wars. Do you know what I mean? There's always been enemies, there's always been allies for different wars. So it's utterly ridiculous to be thinking that. Um, Mel Stride, don't care. Do not give a fuck about who's going to lead the Tories. Um, Record numbers in England taking ADHD medication, good and bad. Increase in 18% in a year. Ooh, how funny. How funny that we are moving towards like when I heard obviously like you used to call girls brats when you were a kid, right? And like you've got military brats and shit. Do you know what I mean? I guess Kamala Harris is probably more of the military brat variety, but you've got like when I was a kid, brat was like I don't even think brat was just for girls. I think brat was for boys as well. It just meant sort of like an entitled attitude um to something. That's what it meant. Now, when I think I discovered what a brat was in like the kink world about 15 years ago or something. Before, I don't know, you know, people watch porn, or I used to at least. So like, so I think at that point, like, and when you're watching porn, you think, oh, that's quite an attractive concept. So you seek that shit out in porn, right? Or I sought that shit out in porn like 15 years ago. And then when you meet women I hate this fucking term identifiers, but when you meet these women that like identify as a brat, then you go, yeah, I'm fine with like a 3 week fling here, and I'm finished. I don't need anything more in this situation. Um, but is it possible with a lot of the stuff that I've been watching on ADHD, you would think. Because I would say since Game of Thrones, shit started getting like real annoying. People started thinking that they were characters in Game of Thrones. Do you know what I mean? It's so cringy, man. And so people started like literally acting like they were characters in Game of Thrones, right? I will be Adam Sandler characters all day. I just want to let you know, know that. Like, Game of Thrones was cool. It was a shame that they ended the series at the on such a terrible note. I think that they did that to series like that and series like Gamora because they wanted to destroy the legacy of them. I think that what the message is like Bibles constantly put messages in their shit, right? I think that what the message was if you want to live life like this, do you know what I mean? We're gonna nuke your final act. That's what I figured. Gamora was like gangster, revenge, murder, 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 blah blah blah, and Game of Thrones was like the same but more, you know, um, castle murder, 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 revenge, 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 right? And I think that what the point was if you want to live your life like that, then you're going to get your final act nuked. And then after that, there seems to be a rise in sort of like girls acting like brats. However, like when you say a rise, I would say it seems that way on social media and in memes, and it seems like a lot of girls' alter ego is a brat. But it seems like they don't really. It seems like most women don't act like that in like work or in sort of public. At least, obviously, if they have a few drinks around each other, then that's the case. But like, for the most part, I would say that in like jobs or in like society where you're all around each other, there's only like a tiny bit of brattiness. But I would say that an increase in ADHD medication. I'd say that what you're doing there is maybe that you're giving people. They seem to be. Listen, like when they're doing this and they're trying to get rid of stuff. I do think that because the media is a weapon, that there's a very good chance that they don't like that. There's a bunch because what the media does is it goes, oh, you shouldn't be. You're not allowed to have all these things. Like it's basically a bunch of people using a shitload of AIDS, going, you can't have AIDS. That's what it is. It's a bunch of people like involving themselves in like tons of sexually frivolous acts, right? Like taking drugs and drinking, talking about how you shouldn't take drugs and drink, right? Like, and this whole thing of autism, you think like these ADHD and autism medications, like, and them saying, them seemingly trying to paint them as bad constantly in the US and the UK, you think, is that because it makes people that sort of have some sort of condition, it makes them like obscenely talented? Do you know what I mean? You think, is that like what's going on here? Because is that what's possibly going on? This is actually a way of fixing people, and they don't want those people to be fixed. because they need there to be more of a hierarchy. And I imagine what happens is when normal people take those medications that don't need them, they end up like the Brian on fucking Family Guy, where he writes what he thinks is an amazing story, and it's like a crap version of Game of Thrones. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when people with ADHD and autism take them, I imagine it gives them some sort of like superpower because they already have a few superpowers that normal people just don't and can't have. So what I would say that that does is it makes them sort of incredibly focused with those powers that just seemed a little bit spazzy before, and then it gives them sort of like an incredible power. It would be almost like, can you imagine if you got people with physical disabilities, right, who had grown up getting bullied for having physical disabilities, who had grown up with kids in the playground going and whatever else, and like making fun of them, not having them ever think that they were going to be able to get the people deemed as attractive in life. Can you imagine if in like if with like the Neuralink maybe, or like with some other form of, can you imagine if in 10, 20, 30, 40 years time those disabled people had the ability to be like get rid of that physical disability, get rid of any sort of facial spasms or twitches, get rid of any sort of physical pain that they had, and they built up the strength of what it took to exist in this world with those with the conditions that they had. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine if like I feel like it's similar to that. I feel like maybe like I've never really taken any ADHD meds. Obviously, I've taken little bits of speed. I didn't. I liked microdosing speed. When I started drawing again, I was microdosing speed and mushrooms. Uh, like take and Viagra. So because I thought that because I was having a lot of sex at the time, and I thought that the speed was going to fuck up my pee. I think speed makes you a little bit like knowing people that take a lot of speed. I think it's a bit of a feminine drug. So I thought, well, I don't really want to do steads, but if I nibble on like a quarter of a Viagra, it was less than that. I was doing like a fifth or a sixth of a Viagra with a tiny, tiny little key of speed and like point 0.1, point 0.2 of like magic mushrooms like every day. Maybe I was giving it a break on the mushrooms every so often. Um, but yeah, that started me drawing again. After like, it's funny, isn't it? Because I feel like I have these like these officers being like, it's not like you to not talk about something that you're good at, but like actually, I didn't draw for like 10 years, and when I started drawing again, people were going, oh, hidden ability, right? Like because I don't talk about everything that I'm good at. I just like doing everything and anything. So things that I enjoy, I'm going to talk about and see if I can find other people that also enjoy those things. And do you know what I mean? Like, quite obviously, when you enjoy doing something, you're going to enjoy talking about it. And you know what this is? This is the church going, no, I don't like other people's gardens looking good. I'm going to break in at night and salt their earth. That's what that is. I'm going to show them a Monet, do you know what I mean? Or I'm going to show them somebody with like, okay, I don't think that I can paint melting clocks like that dude, but like I can sketch shit that I like. Do you know what I mean? Me not liking somebody else's art is usually because I think it's poisonous to society. Funnily enough, seeing as all the government wants to do is poison society, they won't like my art because it's doing the opposite of poisoning society. It's poisoning the people that are poisoning society. And obviously they don't want that. Anyway, the ADHD meds, I'd say that maybe it increases sexual frivolity. That's not a word, but like maybe it makes you fuck around a lot, you know? Like not that I fucking hate that. I can't even say that like fuck around and find out shit, but like that for me is said by the type of guys that like Hannibal. That's who says that. um, that really like UFC, but watch the fights not knowing about anything that's going on in the fight. They just go, he hit him, he hit him, he hit him, bloodlust, bloodlust. Do you know what I mean? That's those people for me that probably like fuck around and find out videos a lot. Um, yeah, so like maybe they're gonna try and fuck this off because um I would say that men that want to keep women in a little like prison hidey hole to cook them food and clean for them or whatever, they don't want their wives taking the power back by going out and fucking around, do they? If they want to if they want to imprison a woman, they don't want that to happen. I would say that that's what that is. I would say like it's one of those things, isn't it? Like if you're a young woman and you want to have a lot of sex, like it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and not only that, like you know when you get to my age, like now what I have is a bunch of men who are married who had sex with like three different women in their early life, and now they have three kids, and they act like they're really happy because they have that because they're happy in that family life, right? But like they didn't live life like that when they were younger. And now they go, oh, well, look at his life now, or look at her life now. Like that must mean that like it was the wrong choice. Not really, because you were miserable as fuck and jealous as fuck for like 15 years. Do you know what I mean? So I would go as far as to say that like you did nothing but beg my attention in bars and clubs because you wanted some of my shine. And now I'm miserable because like I don't know, I'm reverting back to what I was in my early mid-teens. You know what I mean? Seemingly, I'm getting my life controlled by a bunch of miserable pieces of shit that think everybody should be miserable now. So like, I'm miserable. Um, However, I would say that those people that are attempting to control my life, those people that are happy that I'm not happy anymore, they never had the ability to live life like I live life. So I would say to girls like, yeah, you might get into a situation where other miserable women want to make you feel bad. You might also just have to deal with those consequences of like, if you're going to have sex with a lot of different men, if you're going to cheat on different men and you're not going to care about it, people probably aren't going to trust you in your later years. You might have to deal with that. Maybe you're going to move with society in the right way. You're going to move with society in the way that you want to move with society, and maybe other people are all going to do that too, and everybody's going to be fine and happy. You know, I would hope that it's that way. Personally, I would hope that everybody is a lot happier, um, sharing partners and until the end of our days, right? But like I think that there you look at all the people that are controlling us now, they don't want that because it's not applicable to them. And I think that that's what does happen is old people find it harder to pull. Old people want to have sex less, and they they see that in older people that I still want to fuck like three, four times a day, but I think maybe at the ages above us, that they don't get sex. They don't have people really find them attractive as often. So they go out of their way to try to manipulate like my generation into following suit with them so that we can sort of like try to tell the younger generation not to do it or something because one day they're not going to be able to fuck around. But like, I just figure I don't know. Like I said yesterday, like I have no problem with ending up with a town bike, just as long as it's not a town bike that didn't sleep with a load of guys I hate and did it to try and wind me up. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, if they did that to other people, so be it, man. People don't like people and they react. Look at like this story about this Muslim family. Like this father has had his two children beaten up by police on video, head stamped on and volleyed. There are riots in his name, right? There are riots in his children's name, rightly so, from like tons of media attention from white people, brown people, black people from in other countries and shit, right? Police taking the right action, and calling for calm, you know? So like I would say that just because people get in conflicts in relationships when they're younger, it doesn't really have any indication. You know, just the same as like if I have a bad teacher when I'm younger, it doesn't mean that every teacher I have is bad. Just because I have a teacher that I don't like, I would say whoever's been trying to teach me for the last 20 years is crap, personally. All they're doing is they're making it so that I do something so that they can go, because this is my desired intention and he's good at it. Therefore, I have a result here. You don't. You're making somebody that used to be really fucking happy miserable. Do you know what I mean? You're going off police officers' daughters that said, "No, he's actually really miserable. No, you were a terrible girlfriend. We should have broken up a lot sooner." That's got nothing to do with me being a miserable person. It's got everything to do with me being a happy person. And at that time, I had a problem with staying in relationships that were bad for me. Do you know what I mean? It's got nothing to do with me being a miserable person. I didn't need any help. I needed to not be in a relationship with you. So like, yeah, I would say that it's similar to that concept. Do you know what I mean? Um, you have a bad teacher, you have a bad boss. It doesn't mean that every teacher or every boss is going to be bad. And this is in the terms that we're living in now. It's such a funny thing how so many business owners that like sort of say, "Ah, you're talking about slavery again." Like you employ people, you pay them, right? So what are you talking about? If you want your concept of owning an independent business to go forward, then you need to have. If you want your concept of owning independent businesses to go forward, then you need workers to be appeased by having bosses. If you need people to learn from other businesses before they set up their own business, or people that just can't be asked of setting up an own business, then you need people to be happy workers. Anyway, yeah, but I would say like I don't know why like you cheating on one partner at one time in your life, I don't think that has any bearing on doing it later in life. If anything, I think that people that stay rigidly within lines probably lie and cheat in a different way, you know? I'm not sure if it's any better or worse. And for people that go, well, stop seeing cheating as such a bad thing. Like if I'm friends with somebody and they are going behind my back to somebody that I don't like and telling them a load. This is the difference between like how women and men like see this shit, right? Like if you have a mate who is like knows that you don't like someone, pretends to not like that person with you, and then goes behind your back and like bitches about you to that person, you're gonna be with that friend like, okay, well, I'm not really bothered about this friendship anymore. Do you know what I mean? You're gonna think, well, oh, there isn't really much that I like from that friendship. Why is it different in a relationship? Why do we have this concept of no, you need to be able to sleep with whoever you want nowadays? Like, sure, but like there should be some sort of, if somebody tells me I really don't like this girl, so can you not sleep with her? I'm going to not do that unless she really pisses me off. And then if she really pisses me off, I'm probably just going to break up with her anyway. Do you know what I mean? You just say that the best thing to do is for people to leave each other before they really piss each other off. But some people like war. Those people should stay with each other anyway. Backpack wearing, I don't give a fuck. Premier League games being held abroad is inevitable. I mean, since the Premier League is filled with, what is it, like 40% English players? I don't even know what the point is in having games in England anymore. Do you know what I mean? What the fuck is that? I think that like him saying Premier League games being held abroad is inevitable. Yeah, like obviously. I think that that's bad for England. I think that if we don't get some sort of way of increasing our weather, that people will just go to games in Europe because, like, how many Europeans come to live in England? This is what was so funny about the Brexit vote. We had good trade deals. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would say that possibly it's very likely that it was fucking Islamic people and Russians who programmed that whole movement because like we had good trade deals going on and we were able to travel Europe, or maybe Europe reversed that shit because like we were able to travel and go and live in Europe. Go, how many people were living in Spain, France, blah 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 blah, blah Portugal, still do, right? Yet, um, now like yet what happened is now shit like this. Like how many Europeans? I knew quite a few Italians and I knew quite a few European people that lived in London, but they were coming over here to live here for like a year, 2 years, and they were always complaining about the weather, meaning that they were always going to go back. Right? Europeans don't want to live here apart from like Polish people. It was so funny. Brexit was so funny, man. So fucking abstract. Such a fucking abstract concept. Uh, Counterintuitive to everything that they were saying. Do you know what I mean? It's mad. It's almost like they wanted us to stay locked in a prison. I think that what happened was all the talented people are leaving England. All the talented people were leaving England because it's crap here, right? So they said, well, we need to stop our talented people leaving England. And now what? But like they didn't stop. They didn't stop the talented people leaving England and then make England a better country to be in. They're making it 10 times worse. So now anybody that would have been intelligent enough to fucking leave the country, now we're just getting squashed under the weight of being around shit people that before we could just really easily leave. No Europeans come here, so I would say that like, yeah, probably what's going to happen is Premier League games are going to start being held abroad, and then nobody's going to come to English games from Europe or from the world because they're going to go, why would I want to go on holiday in England? Do you know what I mean? I would say that that's what's going to happen. Why would I want to go somewhere miserable, rainy, windy, with a bunch of people that are seemingly not good citizens, not good people to be around? I'd say that's what's going to happen. And then we're just going to have a ton of football stadiums. Look at the situation, right? Like, we're then going to have a bunch of Saudi backers, a bunch of Saudi people who have loaned football clubs that much money and essentially councils that much money, right? Putting money into stadiums. They're not owned by English people anymore. And then what's going to happen is they're going to go, oh, well, these don't make money anymore. And we're going to go, yeah, crazy, isn't it? Football just doesn't make money in England anymore. It's all abroad. Do you know what I mean? Even our teams are now owned by left to pay tax, less tax in other countries. They're just English by name, right? And then the Saudis and whoever the fuck else is going to go. We still need our money though. We still need that 100 billion that we lent you. That's what's going to happen. And then the councils are going to turn back to slavery, less, drop the minimum wage, probably going to coincide with when we have a far right party in. Drop the minimum wage massively so that they can pretend to be getting out the brown people. Actually, the sole purpose of it is to make a load of money off the people making no money so that they can pay back loans to the brown people that they're saying that they're getting out when actually they're just